Electricity distribution companies in Nigeria have agreed to suspend the planned increase in electricity tariff after a meeting with the National Assembly leadership. The DISCOs agreed to suspend the increase till the first quarter of next year, while the leadership of the National Assembly has promised to meet with President Muhammadu Buhari on the issue. The DISCOs, however, said if the planned hike is eventually deferred till next year, the government should continue to bear the difference in the present tariff and what was considered as the appropriate tariff, according to the statement by the media aide to the president of the President Ola Awuni, that's of the House of Assembly Speaker, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, and other principal officers of the two chambers who met at the National Assembly with the chief executives of the government's electricity regulatory body and those of the DISCOs across the country. They succeeded in convincing the DISCOs to defer the planned hike. A cross-section of Nigerians had earlier expressed their fears over planned tariff increase by DISCOs.
It's like our government are not being considered with what the masses are actually going through. Yeah, this is not the best time for that, even though it's going to happen. The increment is coming up again, and there's not much difference with what we are getting. If an outsider, a private business is giving me a service I'm not enjoying, why do I want to increase the service fee? So the government are not considerate enough with us.
It will be very difficult as a citizen for us to pay the bill. Why? Because some of us have lost our job. Like me, I've lost my job. So how do you now expect me to pay for the new tariff again? No job, it is difficult for even us to eat, not to talk about paying the new tariff. I don't know why governments still do things that will make it difficult for us to live.
I think it will too be hard for the citizen of the country to pay up the electricity tariffs. So I will advise the federal government to at least decrease the price of the electricity tariff, so that everybody can be affordable to everybody. Because currently, right now in my own house, we don't have lights.
By July, they are going to increase the electricity paying. The light that is not coming, you want to increase it again. Nigeria is suffering. So I don't, with the comment that we are here, look at Ghana there. They are enjoying the light more than Nigeria here. So let our government do something about this thing. So if they are increasing the pay, what of the job? No job. So let them help us. They are not helping us. So let the government help us out of this crisis.
Well, let's look more, dig down into this very important discussion. I have joining me via Skype from Lagos Island, the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Muda YUSUF. Dr. YUSUF, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
Yes. First, I'm going to ask you, what's your direct reaction to the review in the electricity tariff? Some say it's a law. We have to go through it. But it's coming to Nigerians like they're saying this is not the right time. How does it come to you?
Well, I think there should be a balance between social and political considerations and commercial considerations. I think that is the dilemma that we are faced with. The providers of electricity are business people. And for their businesses to continue to run, the economics of the business must be right. There have been back and forth about all of this. But if you have a business, if the economics is not right, the whole system will collapse. Now, on the other hand, we have the social and political considerations. There is a welfare implication of a tariff review, which is what the National Assembly is trying to drive at least to look good, to be sensitive to the consumers, to the people, especially at a time like this. I agree that this is not the best of time for an increase to happen. But who will carry the can? Who will pick the bill? That is one thing that we have to sort out. Because as at January this year, the GENCOs said they have a bill invoice outstanding of almost ₦1 trillion with the Nigerian Electricity Bulk Trading Company. And the GENCOs need to pay the gas suppliers. So if the gas suppliers are not paid, how will the GENCOs generate the electricity, even the little electricity that we have? So it's a whole lot of issues that we need to resolve. And we also need to make up our mind. If you want electricity to be a social product, then let us decide that it's a social product. It doesn't have to be cost reflective. Then government will have to subsidize it heavily. If it's going to be a commercial product, then we should allow commercial principles to drive the delivery. Of course, even within the context of commercial principles, there has to be a regulatory framework, just as you have between NCC and the telecoms. There has to be a regulatory framework. And we have also the Federal Competition Commission. This is part of their responsibility to ensure that there is no exploitation. But we need to ensure that those who have invested money in any business also have responsibility to their shareholders, those who have put the money down. So the economics of electricity provision we need to address very critically if we must get the issue of this electricity right. Now, the discourse have said the government should pay the difference. Where is the money going to come from?
Exactly.
Even right now, the government is still owing, the embed is still owing the GENCOs. The GENCOs are owing the gas suppliers. So it's a very complicated matter.
That's exactly where I was going to the next question, talking about sustaining subsidies we are trying to move away from PMS, but that of electricity still remains. So it's really worrisome at this time where government is even grappling with revenue issues, ways of raising revenue and all of that. Where do you see this taking us to?
Well, there has to be engagement. There has to be engagement, and we need to ensure that there is a very good balance in all of this. We need to ensure that we give the space to investors in that sector to be able to run an investment that is sustainable. There are different models that we can look at. We can look at the model of segmentation. As we speak, we have some consumers that are burning a lot of diesel. If you compare the cost they incur on diesel related to the proposed increase in tariff, they are still more comfortable with the slight increase in tariff because it is still cheaper to have public electricity supply. So we can have segmentation of the market, willing buyer, willing seller. Segmentation along the lines of capacity to pay. So that you have that kind of segmentation. So we know areas that don't have much capacity. We know areas and consumers that have the capacity to pay. And we work a model around that. We need to have a model that will work for this environment. We cannot continue to get the private sector to be providing social goods. If you want to do that, then you must be ready to subsidize. And the government is not in a position right now to provide any significant sustainable subsidy. So there is no going back. We have to just face it. If you want electricity, we need to make sure that the economics of electricity provision is right. There is no two way about it. But we also need to make sure that the cost parameters that are inputted in the cost of electricity, we also need to get it right. Because we know that there are issues of energy theft. So many people also don't pay. So it is only the few that are paying that are carrying the burden of all the bills. Then there are issues of capacity. There are issues of obsolete equipment. There are so many issues like that. And there are also issues of technical and financial capacity of even the discos themselves. So it's an issue that is multidimensional. And for us to get a sustainable solution, we need to deal with it in a holistic and multidimensional way.
Now, DG, I want to take you again to this issue of a cost-reflective tariff. I've attended a lot of meetings with the distribution companies and even other sectors of the value chain, and they've continued to maintain this fact that Nigeria pays extremely low for power. But there's always this argument also that we don't have regular supply. So which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, it's a chicken and the egg situation. In order to scale up the power supply, you need liquidity. You need money. If you don't have the money, how are you going to provide the power? So I think it is better to give them a challenge that, okay, you want a review in tariff, this is it. You can have this review, but within this timeline, you must demonstrate the capacity to ensure a regular supply of power. Because the financial capacity has to come first. Because the discos as they are, they don't have the liquidity. Don't forget, it is the disco that has the responsibility to generate liquidity to service the entire chain, to service the transmission, to service the GENCOs, and to service the gas suppliers. The liquidity has to come from there. So if from the word go, there's a liquidity challenge from the origin of liquidity, then the whole system will not be sustainable. So I think we need to just live up to the reality that if you want the private sector to supply this electricity, then the tariff must be right. Is there a
guest from the stock market? G, on a final note now, before I let you go, just in 60 seconds, where do we go? The sector has already been privatized, and I don't think there can be any going back on that. Though some people are calling for a reversal of it, which many have said that's not the way to go. Now, the stakeholders meeting and ironing out all of these things, how long, when are we going to improve? We see the distribution companies maintaining positions. We see the transmission companies saying that, the TCN saying that we have enough to generate, discos are not receiving. And we see the GENCOs also coming out to have their own challenges. Gas suppliers also have their reservations. When are we going to have supply in this country? We're still doing less than 4,000 megawatts.
Well, I think it is only when we put the appropriate structures in place, appropriate structure that can make investment in that sector to thrive. We must compromise a little on the political and the social side of it if you want businesses to run this sector. There are assumptions on which these investments are based. There are assumptions on the exchange rates, which has possibly doubled or even tripled since the GENCOs, since the private sector took over. There are assumptions on inflation. There are assumptions on a lot of other parameters, which have changed over time. And these are assumptions that guided the privatization in the first place. So if these variables are changing, the prices also must reflect those variables. If it's not going to reflect it, then the government must be ready to pick the bill. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where the government doesn't have the capacity to pick the bill. So we just have to face up to the reality, and we need to see how we can also diversify the energy mix. Everything doesn't have to come from national grid. We can have the options of solar, we can reduce the cost of solar, and all of that.
Yes, so Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, it's always good having you on the show. Thank you very much for your time.